Quick welcome. My name is Chris Cutshaw. I am the lead facilitator for Buncombe County Schools AIG program for grades 5 through 12. I also teach classes at Kuntz Intermediate. Worked for quite a few years at North Buncombe Middle, so some of these faces I am especially happy to see. But I am very grateful for your time this evening that you are spending to join Mr. Tom Winton, who is the director for the North Carolina Governor's School. And we are very pleased to have Mr. Winton join us. This is the first time we've ever done a virtual meeting for this. And I can honestly say, hopefully it'll be the last time we have to do it virtually, but I'm very pleased that we have the technology to be able to offer. Just so that you students and families and parents and adults know, I will be monitoring the chat. Mr. Winton will take over here in just a few moments, and he will be doing the presentation. I'll monitor the chat, and I will interrupt and say hello to him if we've got questions that are timely, but otherwise we'll leave a little bit of time open at the very end where you can unmute yourself and ask questions. A question about anything in particular that he says, feel free to stick it in the chat box. If you're probably super familiar with where your chats are based on the number of Zoom calls that you've been in, but adults feel free as well to ask questions, and we will try to make sure that we get all of your questions answered in a timely fashion. So without further ado, I do want to thank Mr. Tom Winton for joining us. As I said, he is the director for the North Carolina Governor's School. He is out of the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, the Exceptional Children's Division, and we are super lucky to have him joining us this evening. So thank you, Mr. Winton. I will mute myself. You take over, and I will be watching the chat and alerting you as you need.
Okay, well, thanks, Ms. Cutshaw. This is a great opportunity to be with all of you, students, parents. I see some parents on the screen as well. I am a parent. I've got a senior in high school right now, and a few minutes ago, she was on the other side of this wall in a dance class. So I know what it's like what the reality is these days. So normally, as Ms. Cutshaw mentioned, I'm there in person, and we've been having them at Reynolds High School, these informational meetings, and it's been fun. Love to visit, love to travel, but just wasn't feasible this year. So about half hour ago, I was in Carteret County, way on the coast, and so that's what makes this stuff possible, to jump from place to place and to be in more than one place on a given evening, which is a real treat, even though I wish I could see you in person, shake your hands, get to talk with you and chat. This is primarily for Buncombe County Schools, but I know that we also have some folks from Asheville Christian who are here. Carrie Boer, I believe I saw her log on, which is real exciting. Carrie, do you want to say hello?
Hi, Tom. Hi, Buncombe County, and hopefully some of my students are on there as well. Thanks for inviting us in.
Yeah. So I'm glad this worked out, and I know we have some students from both Asheville Christian and Buncombe County Schools, and Asheville City Schools. I was working with our colleague there, and we've got a different date set up for them. Ashley Free is setting that up, so we're having some good representation from the town and the county, both tonight and other times. It is just a real treat to meet with you students, and I appreciate you taking the time. Hope you got some dinner beforehand, and we'll get to chat a little bit. It's interesting that we've got a good variety of folks, because Governor School is about a good variety of folks. We're supposed to, and we do, reach out to the entire state, from mountains to coast and everything in between. Public school systems, charter schools, private schools, special schools, federal schools, home schools, you name it. And we'll get into that a little bit, but everybody is welcome, and that's one of the hallmarks of this program. I'm going to go over some some stuff on the website that you can view, a PowerPoint, and some other things. But I'll be open to questions. We'll try to make this as friendly as possible while getting through a lot of information. So let me share my screen. We'll start off by taking a look at the Governor School website. And a lot of you have already been there. And up at the top, you'll see that URL. It's crazy long. I don't expect you to know it or to write it down. Really, the best way is simply to go to www.ncgovschool.org, and that will take you straight to this place. It will replace it with this long URL, but it still works. So avail yourself of that. And this is really a one-stop shop for you to find lots of information. We're still in the process of uploading some things, so I'm sorry for that not everything is perfect yet, but we'll get there. You'll see some references to the 2020 session, the one from this past summer, and the one that unfortunately we had to cancel. But it was still a very big accomplishment for our students who were selected to be selected, and we want to keep those names up there. And you can go on there and see students from your school system or students from your local school. And right beneath this is a promotional video. And if you want a 6-minute overview where you don't have to go through all the details of everything that I'm going to go into, watch this video. It is quick and informative, and it has more people than just me, which is good. Informational meetings, those are going on right now. I didn't list them all here because there are too many to list, and they're kind of changing every day. So it's really great that you all were in touch with your school system or school to be here this evening. Ms. Cutshall, are you recording this session for the evening?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay.
One thing that I will mention, Mr. Winton,
Mm-hmm.
I just sent in the chat to everyone who is in the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome. And I also sent a link to the Buncombe County Advanced Learners page.
Okay.
I do have a page that is linked to your page. So if you would like to get to this page that Mr. Winton is showing, you're welcome to go to our Buncombe County information page, and then I have it linked there for you, as well as many of the things we'll talk about tonight. So I actually embedded your video, Mr. Winton, there, and I also embedded the links and the actual documents for the student application and the recommendation.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. That is really terrific. And
you're welcome.
And I imagine maybe even this session will get recorded and be available in some way.
I will add it there as soon as it's available.
That's great. All right, so informational meetings, you're in one. Nomination packet. This is really the place the thing to download. And as Ms. Cutshall mentioned, she's got it linked on her site. It's linked here. This is really a great place for you to look for all sorts of things. We're gonna take a look at it a little bit later. Students, you also see the link to the student application. That's what you're going to download, and then the recommendation form, what your recommenders are going to download, and you'll see some contact information here. So let's take a look at some other information, and we'll get into the details of Governor School. Okay, here we are. And these are real people, real students that went to Governor School in 2019. In fact, this is a shot from opening night at Governor School West. And Governor School West.
I actually see one of our students.
Do you?
Mr. Winton. I do. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's one of my girls right there.
Not doing anything embarrassing, right?
No, she's wonderful.
Good. I was hoping that would be all right. Yeah. Those are real students that really went. So we're very excited. I see someone is waiting to enter the room. So I'm going to admit that person. Okay. And so, yeah, this is at Governor School West, which was at High Point University. And wow, what an exciting, fascinating place that was. And we will get to go back there this year if we can convene in person. I'll get into that a little bit more. Okay, what's Governor School? Why should you be interested? Well, a lot of you already know about Governor School, so sorry if I'm belaboring the point, but it's real important for us that folks know that we invented Governor School, believe it or not. Back in 1963, we started this program when a whole bunch of people got together and said, we need to do something more for our really bright and really talented high school students. It's not that there's anything wrong with their high school education, it's just that they're ready for more. And so this is meant to complement what you're getting in high school. And DPI and SBE that you see there on the screen, that's the Department of Public Instruction. That's the state education agency. And then the SBE is the State Board of Education. That's the folks that the governor appoints. We answer to both of those groups, and I work for both of them. We are about bright and talented students. And when I say bright and talented, I don't mean, do you have a AIG label next to your name, or have you been touted as this or that? We know that brightness and talents show forth in a lot of different ways. And that's kind of what we're here to talk about tonight. We're here about college readiness, and there's no better place to get ready for college than at a college. And that's what you get. You get to live on a college campus in a dorm room with the roommate on a hall, and get to experience what that is like to live away from home for a period of time. And if we can be on campus, that'll be great. Regardless, even if we do an online program this year, it's going to be unique, it's going to be special, and it's going to be something that you won't be able to get anywhere else. Now, we are diverse, and we mean that in every sense of the word. We have a diversity of kids from all across the from all across the state. Every school system has the opportunity to be represented, but we also get lots of charter school students, students from private schools, as I mentioned before, federal schools like Camp Lejeune and Cherokee Central, and special schools like School of Science and Math or UNC School of the Arts. We get students from everywhere, even homeschools. And we really need that, because again, that diversity gives us that diversity of perspective, diversity of experience, diversity in race and ethnicity, in gender, in discipline, in what you're being nominated in. And all that helps us create this learning community that we want to build. And if we didn't have that variety of folks, we would not have as rich of an experience or community that we do get to build every year. And it's one of those things that's truly remarkable about the program. It's innovative, even though it's old. It's 57, 58 years old, but every year it's new. It's a brand new year because there's new topics that we're exploring. Of course, it's brand new students. You get to attend, opportunity to attend one time. And we have turnover in faculty and staff. We have some that return, but some that come to us for the first time. And with all that, we make sure that we remove the typical pressures that students experience, whether you don't have a lot of that pressure at school or you do. We have no grades and no tests and no any of those kinds of extrinsic measures that sometimes can help, but other times can get in the way of that kind of free pursuit of learning, questioning, exploring. And so if you're looking to do really well on a test at Governor School or to graduate first in your class from Governor School, you're going to be disappointed. But if you're ready for something else where you really get to truly geek out in some respects and explore your chosen discipline for its own sake, then we have a program for you. Now, a lot of you already know this as well. We have 10 different disciplines, and you can be nominated in any one of those 10. And if you get nominated and if you get selected, then that's going to be what's called your Area 1. And you would get instruction in classes with some of the brightest and most talented students from across the state in that discipline once in the morning, once in the afternoon, then some extended time, Monday through Friday, every day, and a half day on Saturday. You got a class on Saturday. So you've got 11 classes a day plus some extended time where you're going to get really immersed in that particular thing. Now, these topics seem kind of vanilla. English, math, natural science, choral music, dance. And it is anything but when it comes to Governor School, because everything that we do at Governor School is, again, enhancing and being a little bit different than what you've had at your regular school experience. English is about new authors, new ways of exploring literature. It's not Shakespeare and Mark Twain. It is new, again, new authors. French and Spanish, if you get immersed in that, is about the culture. It is not about learning new vocabulary words. Math is new math, things that you haven't been able to explore before, perhaps like game theory or knot theory. Natural science and social science, all those are new discoveries and new topics. You're not studying old stuff or foundational things about the periodic table or the Civil War. It is new composers in choral and instrumental music. It's modern dance. It's devised theater. It's new ways of expressing yourself creatively through visual art. All of this is meant to really expand your horizons a bit and give you some opportunities to explore things more deeply than you understood. Now, you're going to get a lot of that, and that's fine. It's great. That's why you get nominated and why you get selected. That would be math camp if you did that, if that's all that we did, or science camp, or English camp, or art camp. Nothing wrong with those. And in fact, I don't know if any of you got to be on the webinar that I did a couple of weeks ago with School of Science and Math and Summer Ventures. They did a joint webinar with us, and they are like a cousin program to ours, math and science, and it is really terrific. And if you get that chance to go to Summer Ventures, maybe some of you have been before, do it. Except if you get to go to Governor's School. We want you, because we're going to give you that wonderful immersive experience, but we're going to do something else, something in addition. And if anyone who's been familiar with Governor's School, or if we have any parents that went to Governor's School who are here this evening, you know that there's more. And this is how we're different. So Area 1, yep, your specialty. Area 2 and Area 3, you're going to take those classes too. And Area 2 is kind of an exploration into more philosophical thinking and the study of knowledge. That's epistemology. Big concepts, asking things, what makes something real? How do we know what time is? What is this concept of beauty? And what is truth? What is identity? I mean, a variety of questions that are all kind of explored through articles and film and speakers and questioning with each other and games and all sorts of stuff. And if you get nominated in a particular discipline, and you've got those bright and talented students from across the state in instrumental music or theater that you've met, and all those people you're going to class to, if you're in English, those students in literature, they're not going to be in your Area 2 class. We're going to mix it up, and you're going to have at least one student from all 10 of the disciplines in your class, or as many as we can squeeze in there, in a class of about 15 or 16 or 17 students. And you're going to take that class 3 times a week. Area 3 is somewhat different, and it is about self and society, or less the title that we have. It really is very much an introspective kind of class where you get to look at yourself, look at your values, look at how you square your values with how you act. We're going to have opportunities to explore, discuss values, ethics, ethical dilemmas, not to indoctrinate you or teach you about something, but really just to have the opportunity to question and students to be able to share. Here's from my perspective how things should be, or here's the questions that I have and how I can't quite reconcile things. Again, no pressure, but an opportunity to question and explore. A lot of journaling, a lot of chatting. You won't have outside people coming in on that class. It really is a great opportunity just to sit, talk, listen, and learn. And so Area 1, Area 2, Area 3, a full week, Monday through Friday, half day on Saturday, 9 a.m., 3 in the afternoon. A lot of great opportunities. That would be great if we were a day program, but we're not. We are a residential program, and so we've got lots of other things. Now, students, I know that many of you are very interested and or talented in more than one thing. You like English, but you're also big into instrumental music or dance or theater or natural science. You know, you could be interested in many things, but you can only be nominated in one. One of the neat things that we have in the late afternoon and sometimes early evening, we have these electives and seminars, and that's where the faculty and the staff, they start offering other things, and you can go to any of them. If you can go into something else that you really wanted to also come for, like you wanted to do singing and you didn't go in that, you went in math. Well, here's the Big Sing, where you get that opportunity in the late afternoon to be with a group of singers. Or maybe it's something that you've never tried before. You get that opportunity as well. And it's optional. You can go to any of these things. Whimsical things, serious things. Every day there's a different set of offerings. And sometimes I guess that's the hardest thing, is students figuring out which they're going to go to. There are speakers and what we call convocations that are on some evenings where we have presenters from across the state or across the country that come in. You have activities and recreation. We have athletics. Every student presents also. They share what they've learned. And we have as much energy for the English Poetry Slam as we do for the orchestra. Because everyone is really excited about what's happening in those areas and want to find out one of the fascinating things they're learning about. And it's not all structured. I mean, there are informal times. There is free time that you have. You can go take a nap. But there's so many things to do that lots of students find themselves really engaged and immersed in the community. So there's 2 campuses, but just one program, Governor's School. And it happens at 2 different places, West, East. West has been at High Point University. East has been at Meredith College. They've been tremendous for the last 20 years. Honestly, it's going out for bid right now, and because we have to, state says we have to. So it may be at a different campus, or it may be at Meredith. We don't know quite yet. We'll find out. But wherever it is, it'll be in the Triangle region most likely. It's going to be a wonderful college experience. And honestly, students, you could be assigned to either campus. It doesn't matter because you live in the western part of the state that you automatically go to West. We want a full, rich, statewide student body at each campus. And so you could be assigned to either one, except for what you see here on the screen. At West is where our Spanish program is. It's also where our orchestra is. So if you play strings and you get selected, that's where you go. And this year, a treble choir. So just sopranos and altos. At East, we have, instead of Spanish, we have our French program. We have a band instead of orchestra. So none of the strings would be going over to East. But saxophones would, because there's no saxophone in the orchestra, but there's saxophone in that band, or what we call wind ensemble. And the mixed choir is going to be at East this year, and that is sopranos, altos, tenors, and basses. So tenors and basses, If you get selected, East is where you'll go, along with some of our sopranos and altos. Check out these websites, ncgsw.org, ncgse.org, and those will be some really great places that you can visit to see more about those campuses. Now, all that is if we are in person. Elephant in the room, what are we doing for COVID? And honestly, we don't know right now. The thought of convening right now, we wouldn't be able to. Legally, we wouldn't be able to. But we are hoping with everything that the public health situation will improve and we'll be able to safely convene at our 2 campuses this summer. If not, we are fully preparing simultaneously for an online program, and it will be a robust. It won't be 10 hours in front of a screen each day, but it will be a robust experience where you would get still that interaction with your peers, doing some unique and special things. There'd be a mix between the screen time and maybe some off screen, doing some activities and then coming back, outside readings, still trying to achieve that intimacy of a learning community as best we can from remote. Whatever it is, we'll find out in early 2021 and we'll be making announcements about that. Regardless, we're looking forward to offering to students a unique and robust experience that's befitting of Governor's School. How much does it cost? Well, the state pays for most of it. These are your tax dollars at work, and we like to think it's a good use of your tax dollars. But it doesn't pay for everything. And so we have been charging a $500 per student tuition, but you don't have to pay that now. It's only after if you get nominated, and then if you get selected, and then if you accept and you agree, then that's when the $500 tuition kicks in. Now, I will give this disclaimer, to be determined for 2021. We don't know exactly. If we go online, it may be much less. It may be nothing because we won't be paying for room and board. Or it may be a little bit more because our expenses, honestly, for room and board and everything have gone up and our funding hasn't. So we don't know exactly what it will be. Schools pay that technically to us, to our office. However, they can pass that cost to families in that they will collect the sometimes they collect the money from families. Sometimes they find it in their own budgets. Sometimes they do some kind of a mix, require families to pay part. Or if you get tasked with paying that tuition, and it is a challenge, the North Carolina Governor's School Foundation has need-based scholarships available, and they have been very, very generous over the years. Last year, they funded over 40 students from across the state. That's over $20,000 that they kicked right in, because they want to make sure no student says, I can't go because of the cost. The cost that you do have, if it is in person, is transportation, and families must provide transportation to and from Governor's School. And then any incidental expenses that you run into, you may want to have some spending money to get some ice cream in addition to all the wonderful food you'll have, or if you want to buy a t-shirt that the campus produces or something like that. But really, beyond that, it's all covered. All the meals, it's great food, both campuses, wonderful accommodations, the education, the security, the facilities, on and on and on. Now, important dates. You can see this. We're in the throes of local nominations, and December 1 is when Ms. Cutshall from Buncombe County Schools, Ms. Boer from Asheville Christian, all of our contacts from across the state, that's when they are going to be, that's the deadline for them to submit nominations to my office. So they will be having some local deadlines on when things need to turn in. Ms. Cutshall, can you comment on that from a Buncombe County Schools perspective, what some of those local deadlines might be?
Absolutely. On our school webpage, the Advanced Learning webpage, I did put the calendar of dates available. So what we have determined is that in order to meet your deadline, we have made sure that we have our student applications must be received in our office by October the 30th. And we require those to come through your high school guidance counselor. So if you are going to apply, those need to come through your high school, because your guidance counselors are the ones who will be helping us gather your transcripts and materials like that. So when you decide that you are interested, if you're a Buncombe County School student, please contact the guidance counselor in your department who is working with Governor's School. And typically you can just call or contact your counseling department and they'll let you know who that is. And that counselor will be the one who is responsible for submitting your application materials to my office by the 30th of October. That means your application and your teacher recommendations, all of your materials, and then also the transcript and the materials that have to come from the school. So please make sure that you have let your counselors know in plenty of time that you are interested, and they will submit your application materials to me by the 30th. We have a committee that gathers, and we have set those dates for November the 16th and 17th. That our committee will come and meet together and we'll read every single piece of work that you submit, and looks at the essays, looks at your personal readiness statements, looks at your recommendation forms, and then we hope that gives us plenty of time by November the 20th is the goal for us to announce the Buncombe County nominees for getting those students sent on to Raleigh. And we're giving ourselves a bit of time. Some of you probably are going, wait a minute, November the 20th, he said it wasn't due until December the 1st. But part of that time is the Thanksgiving break. And so we don't want any of those dates to give us any hiccups. So we want to make sure that you guys have the time that you need to get your work completed. And we want to also make sure that our committee has plenty of time and is not rushed to be able to adequately give your applications the time that they need to be considered.
Great, thank you so much. That makes a lot of sense, and I've heard some other school systems say the same. Ms. Bower, do you want to comment on Asheville Christian?
Sure, thanks. We are asking our students who are interested to complete their student portion of the nomination packet, particularly the essays, and get those to me by the end of October as well, by November 1st. Because we're smaller, I'll be able to make sure we get the teacher recommendations and that types of thing. But I'm asking that any students who are interested are telling me by October 15th, just so I kind of have them on my radar. And then by November 1st, the student materials from the nomination packet. And we'll have our scholarship committee meet early November, and then make our decision and complete all the last minute pieces and make sure we have the teacher recommendations as well.
Yeah, that's terrific. And it sounds like there's some real commonalities amongst everyone. And as I mentioned, we're seeing some similar things across the state with timelines, but each one is different and they have their own processes. So everything comes to us by December 1, and usually we get about 1,700 nominations from across the state. That's a lot. And so in our massive office of 2 people, we process that information. Then January and February are when selection committees are happening. We're bringing in people from across the country really to review nominations and make selections in academics, but we're also holding auditions in the arts. I'll get into that in a minute. March 2nd is when I will be sending a list straight to Mrs. Cutshaw, straight to Ms. Barr, about their individual students that they nominated, which were selected and which were not selected. I send that to them so they can share the news with students on a much more personal level, in a much more friendly and kind way than I can. And so they handle that. But a week later is when my office is sending out in the mail letters straight to students. And it's either the happy letter or it's the not as happy letter. That's my happiest and saddest day at the same time every year, is when we get to or have to mail those out. Now, students that get selected are invited, and then they have until April 6th to accept that that selection, and they can choose to do something else, or maybe something else has come up. That's fine. And occasionally we will then look for some alternates to come in, but we really tell students, please go on with your other summer plans, because we don't know if some slots are going to open up. Mid-June to late July, that's Governor's School. That's when it happens. Usually Father's Day, and we're looking at June 20th. That's Sunday, June 20th is Father's Day this year, and happens to be, we get a lot of dads that say, oh, this is terrible. You know, gotta say goodbye to my child for a while on Father's Day. I've got other dads that say, thank you. But anyway, that's when it starts. And for the next 5.5 weeks, then it's Governor's School. And there is a break in the middle, if we're doing the in-person program, where parents could come and pick up their children, and they go somewhere for 3 days and they come back. Just recharge your batteries. But then for the next 2.5 weeks, it's really high energy. So midweek of the last week of July, like the 28th or 29th of July, that's when Governor's School will conclude. If it's online, we'll adhere to these dates pretty well for the beginning and ending, but we may adjust things. I don't know if we'll be operating during the weekends or not. We're still figuring that out. Okay, ramble. Are you interested? Hopefully yes. Are you eligible? Hopefully yes. Let's talk about that. Here we go. If you're a resident of North Carolina, check off, you're in good shape. Meaning not a visiting student, you're not an international exchange student who's just here for the semester or the year. You live in North Carolina. Good. If you're out of state, sorry, this is for North Carolina residents. Also, are you enrolled in a North Carolina school? Obviously you all are. But what that means is that you can't be a North Carolina student that's going to a boarding school somewhere out of state. Even Rabun Gap School, I think that's right down the road, that is just across the Georgia border. Sorry, out of luck. Because we're about enhancing North Carolina schools as well as North Carolina students. Students are going to be going back to their school after they attend Governor's School. So the idea is we want that school to be enhanced by the student coming back and having the energy to share about the things that they've learned. Now, you have to be enrolled right now in 11th grade. 11th grade, you have to be enrolled in right now to be nominated in any of our 10 disciplines. The only exception is that we also allow 10th graders to be nominated, but only in choral music, instrumental music, and dance. Those are the only three. Because over the years we learned that we needed to expand our talent pool a bit to get kids who are ready for Governor's School, and those three. But we have no problem getting students who are ready in theater or visual arts or any of our academic areas. So we limit those to just 11th graders. So I hope that's clear. Now the big news, and may not be that big to you as students, but it was big to Mrs. Cutshaw, and it was big to Ms. Bohr, and it was big to a lot of other folks. No test score. is required for this year. And that was a big change that we made because there was lots of changes with everything going around the pandemic, and students didn't have access to those end of course exams or their SAT or ACT. So we suspended that for this year. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay, let's assume you're eligible. These are real kids, real students that went to Governor School West in 2019, even the guy with the thing. Here's how it works. You don't nominate yourself to my office. You have to be nominated by your school or school system. And here's how that happens. You fill out the student application, which we're going to look at, and there's components to that. There's 2 essays that you have to complete. There's a personal readiness section. And instead of printing it up and signing it and doing all this sort of stuff, you're going to submit it electronically to your counselor or to whoever the official school person is. Usually it'll be your counselor at the school. They will provide your transcript through PowerSchool or through whatever other means that they have for producing a transcript. That tells us about your classes that you've been taking, how you've been doing in them, and may give other information like if your class rank or GPA or things like that. The other things are these 2 recommendations, and we're going to look at those that recommendation form in a few minutes. But I don't want 3 or 4, just 2. And they have to use the recommendation form. We will not accept a separate letter, another document, even if you get your senator to send it. We need it on the recommendation form because we want you to be on a level playing field with every other student. We don't want some other student to get some advantage because they got someone to send something extra. Everyone has 2 recommendation forms or 2 recommendations. The first one must be from one of your high school teachers. And that could be one from this year, it could be one from last year, or if you're a junior, if it was one from your freshman year, and preferably in your nomination discipline. So if you're being nominated in natural science, then preferably, your biology teacher, your physics teacher, your chemistry teacher, your environmental science teacher, someone like that. If you are being nominated in something that you don't have a teacher for, like sometimes students are in choral music and they don't have a choral program at their school, but they do really well in choral music through their church or their community or something like that. You can still do that. Just get another high school teacher who knows about you that you've had to fill out that first one. Second one can be from another teacher at your school. It can even be within your discipline, or it can be from another discipline. It can be your counselor. It can be someone else at your school. Fine. It can be an out-of-school person, like a coach or a tutor or a private instructor or a scouts leader or youth group leader or who knows what. As long as they can fill out that form. And between those 2 forms, as long as we get a good picture of to who you are from someone else's perspective. But mama cannot fill out the form, right? As much as your sister loves you, she cannot write that form. We do not accept that, and that's obvious, I think.
I
But
think, Mr. Winton, it might
sure.
be best that siblings don't do the recommendation form. I had
Exactly.
things, none of them would have recommended me for any. It might be a good idea that we don't allow family members to do that.
Indeed, indeed. But the kicker here is students, it used to be, I know you don't really care about what it used to be, but most recommenders are used to printing something up and maybe stuffing it in an envelope and sealing it and signing it and turning it in. We know that that's a bit of a barrier this year. So they are supposed to send the recommendation straight to the appropriate school official electronically, not through you, not through your parents, not by printing it up and putting it in the mail. Send it electronically. Have them send it electronically, and you tell them who the person is at the school, whether it's your school counselor or if it's another official. But generally, students, you are not supposed to be reading these recommendations. Your parents are not. This is supposed to be kind of an independent, confidential, accounting for this other person about your strengths. But you want to make sure that you're identifying good people who will do that well. All right. In addition to that nomination, Mrs. Cutshall, Ms. Boer mentioned that they will put all that stuff together and send it to us as nominations. That's what a nomination is. It's the application, it's the transcript, it's the recommendations. All of that's a nomination. Our academic students, we only look at that for selection purposes. We don't go through some big task or interview process. We don't have that capacity right now. But for our art students, every single student that gets nominated in any of the performing arts or in visual arts will be invited to audition. And this year we're going to do them online. And it'll be sort of like participating in remote classes, as many of you have been doing, through a link, maybe through WebEx or Zoom or something like that. And it will be live. It's not where you do a recording and send it in. We'll do it live. And we can do a live dance audition. We can do a live choral music audition and instrumental and theater and visual art. We really can. I've been talking with our judges. They're excited about this opportunity. If you download that nomination packet, please do, because there'll be a section there about the auditions so you can get an idea of what is required in those auditions. In person or virtual, we're going to do those. And if you get nominated, we will notify you in December or early January about the actual specifics. Okay, I rambled enough. You see the website here, you see the email address. That comes to both me and to Tish Bynum. So take advantage of writing us if you have questions. We would love to answer your questions. And I'd like to, are you guys okay if I show the application and the recommendations? Chris, okay with that? Okay, yep, students are saying yes. All right, here we go. Let me stop sharing for a second because sometimes it doesn't always work. And let's take a look at the, there's the recommendation form. I'll come back to that in a minute. Let's take a look at the application. Students, this is what you're going to download from the website. But sometimes when you click on it, it goes into another web browser. Please don't start filling it out from there. This is a fillable PDF, and it's real important that you download this to your computer, save it on your computer, and then open that in something like Adobe Acrobat Reader. So that's instruction number 1. It says save this application to your computer and then open it. If you try to fill it out while it is in a web browser, you may lose your data. I don't want you to do that. All right. These other instructions are there for your benefit too. After you open it up, the saved version on your computer, then you can fill out the student information, the essays, the personal readiness, and save. Then you turn it in electronically, and then you get your recommendations. But let's take a quick look at, a lot of this is easy. I don't need to go over this. You'll fill this out. Telling about what you're interested in. Your nomination discipline, you do choose that. And you can even go into detail about your instrument or your choral part if you're going to do that. But page 2, real important. Here's essay number 1 and essay number 2. We describe both on this page. Essay number 1 is the same for every student. At least the prompt is. Doesn't matter what you're being nominated in. English, art, dance, math, Spanish. You're all going to be answering the same question. And you can see it here. Identify and discuss one or more of the most pressing questions you have about how the world works. And how are you planning to pursue answers? We want to know not only what you think, but how you're thinking. And there's some stipulations here about what to follow, how many words. And we really recommend that you do it on a word processing program, do it on Pages, do it on Word, do it someplace so you can get it all set, and then you can copy and paste it. Then essay number 2 is where it really gets a little bit more challenging. It's the same number of words, but the prompt is based on what your nomination discipline is. So you can see how these are challenging. And students, this is really great because this is preparing you for college applications. These are just about as hard as those prompts that you're going to get when you fill out something called the Common App, the Common Application, or some of these schools that require their own essays. They're challenging. And so you've got to answer the one that you're prompted to answer. And real important. And it's also important that you get some insight. Ms. Cutshall, did you want to comment on that?
I sure did. I'm a former English teacher, so I just have to say, students, make certain that when you do both of these essays, that you allow yourself time to get your ideas out, have someone else read these for you, an adult, a teacher, someone that you trust with their grammatical skills and for the content, because we really are looking for excellence in your communication skill. And so we really, really want you to make sure that you use, as Mr. Winton suggested, some other word processing program so that you can do a spell check. I am consistently amazed that we get essays that have misspellings and have capitalization errors. So let me just encourage you to please use your resources. That includes other people to support your efforts there, and that you also use your spell checkers in order to produce the best picture of yourselves. Please remember that all of the people on the committee will only know you by what you give them. And we want them to get the very best impression of you, because we want you all to go forward, because we're so very proud of you and the work that you are capable of doing.
Yeah, and all those are great points, and I could not. I'm sure Mrs. Bower agrees from Asheville Christian. You know, it's really important. We see some students that think that, and sometimes parents too. Oh, well, they're number 1 in their class. Oh, well, they made these wonderful scores on their exams. Oh, they made all this one, and the student ends up not putting in good time in their essays, and they don't get selected. Period. I mean, poor essays are a guarantee of not getting selected. I can't be any more clear about that. So anyway, on these pages, you'll see essay number 1 where you can insert info, essay number 2 where you've got to put your prompt in, and then insert the essay. And then personal readiness is where you get to brag about yourself. I typed on here FFA president. My daughter's in FFA, and she wasn't president, but you know, come on. So list on here in bullet form the activities that you've been in at school, clubs, organizations, things that you've been doing in high school over the past 3 years. Tell us about leadership positions. Tell us how long you've been involved. Do the same thing with community activities. If you've been on clubs, teams, groups, organizations, and any ways you've been in leadership, any of that. And any awards and honors that you've received over the past 3 years. Again, past 3 years, don't go far back. And it is an opportunity to brag about yourself, but we do want, it's not so much quantity as it is quality. So make sure that you tell us about that. We're interested in dedication, we're interested in leadership, we're interested in trying something new at the same time, and the willingness to kind of put yourself forward. Then we want your reflections on that, why they're important to you, and then tell us how you're ready to contribute to Governor School, either residentially or virtually, because we want to know that you are ready for this experience, and give us in your own words, tell us how, and maybe how you're going to prioritize this over other things. It's helpful to us. So that's your application. Now, the recommendation again, you're going to point people to the Governor School website so they can download this for themselves, and they should download it, save it, do all that sort of stuff so they can save their data. They're going to be asked to review you on 3 big areas: your strengths as a student, and that's what this first section is, section A, and it's real important that they elaborate, because we won't have as much confidence in just, you know, Christmas trees of scores. Section B is telling you as a person, your character, your maturity. That helps, and also where they can elaborate a bit. And then finally, we want to know if you're ready for Governor School and ready to push intellectual boundaries, and that you're ready to be independent. And see, Tom is really ready. That's helpful for us. So they would be filling that out. So students, make sure you find 2 good people who can take their time and do a good job on these recommendations. Makes a difference.
Mr. Winton, I'd like to
Yes.
add to that. Students and adults, one of the things that I would like to encourage you to do as you think about those who might know you well enough to do a recommendation, one of the things that is super helpful as a teacher who has finished recommendations for students, I greatly appreciate when students send me a very short list of some things that they're most proud of. These are some of the accomplishments that I'm most proud of, and here is why I've asked you to be my recommender for whatever it is. And that helps your recommender know, these are some things that I could put in to help highlight some of the special things about this student. Because again, the committee will only know you from this paperwork, and you want to give them the best picture of who you are as a total package. And so if you can help your recommender in that way, they'll be able to provide some more detail that will be helpful for the committee.
Yeah, great points. Great. That's all the information that I had for this evening. I want you to know about the program, and I wanted you to know about how you can go. And so hopefully you have a little bit more insight. But I'd love to answer any questions that you have. So whether you want to do that verbally or put it in the chat, now's a good time to do it. What kind of questions do you have?
I have a question about when to turn in like the essays to the counselor. Like, could you review that again?
Yes, Roderick, which school, I think that was you that asked the question, which school are you with?
T.C. Robertson.
Okay, if you would get with, I believe your counselor is with Miss Wagaman there, who is in charge of Governor School. If you would get in touch with her and ask her what day she'd like for you to have your material submitted to her. Every counselor has kind of a window where you have to submit your documents to them, and then that way they can get everything together and submit them to me. And so she'll be the best one to answer that question for you.
All right, thank you.
You're so welcome.
Great. What else?
If you're doing a foreign language, like what level or how much experience you have to have already had? Like I'm in French 4 this year, but I have friends who are juniors who are in French 2 or French 3 or maybe French 1. I don't think so, but just like, would they be able to apply even though they haven't had as much experience?
That's an excellent question. Yes, we are generally looking for students who have some advanced coursework in that language, and certainly that will show better for you in your application. But that's not the be-all end-all. A student could, if they're really advanced and they have really strong recommendations and show it in their essays and show it in their other ways, they could be in a level 2 or level 3 course that maybe they don't have necessarily all of the as high of coursework, but they show that ability and that achievement. So I would say it is not something for the beginning level student who's just taking an introductory, because that class every day is in French. The entire class is in French every day. They rarely speak English during that class. Now you're going to get it in area 2, area 3. You'll be speaking English there. Don't worry, you don't have to be all day long. But in your area 1 class in French, you're speaking French. And area 1 Spanish, you're speaking Spanish. So be ready for that. You don't have to be perfect, but you've got to be ready for conversing and participating fully. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Both of you have your mics on?
Off.
Or, yeah, your mics are turned off.
How many
It
times
helps.
did
It
that
helps. It
happen?
helps if I do that. So I'm sorry. Thank you, Ms. Barr.
Thank you.
The dates, Father's Day through late July. We don't have that nailed down specifically, but you will see some dates on the calendar of the Governor's School website. And so June 20th through July 28th or 29th, that's pretty much what we're looking at right now. We will be able to confirm that soon. How many students? Each year of the last several years, we've had 335 students at East and 335 at West. This year, we'll probably have a few more because some of our students that were selected for this past year, the rising juniors, we are extending an invitation for them to automatically attend this coming summer. Those students, there's about 80 of them that we'll be extending that invitation to. They will be over and above that 335. So about 40 per campus. So maybe about 375 per campus. But for your purposes, as far as selection, we're selecting about 335 per campus. And as I mentioned, you could be assigned to either one unless you're in something that is campus specific. Let's see. Other questions? I did get a private question about the daily schedule at Governor's School. Is it possible for a student in academics to take Zoom music lessons with a private teacher from home? Possibly, especially if we're going to do an online program. If we do an in-person program, that's going to be kind of tough. We may be able to work that out, but it's tough because you're going to want to be involved there the entire day. And we find that students who either enroll in an online class or do some other thing while they're at the residential program, they end up doing neither one well. And so we ask students to really kind of commit to one or the other.
Tom, it may be,
yeah.
I'm sorry, it may be worth it at this point to also speak to taking college courses or taking summer courses. We just hadn't talked about that.
Yeah, we really, if it is in person, we actually forbid it. We say, no, you can't. You've got to choose one or the other because unfortunately the community suffers. You end up not being fully present with us. And so we'd rather have students that can be fully present. And so you would have to choose. Now with an online program, we'll probably be more flexible with that because obviously we're not going to have you 24/7. So in that regard, there would be a difference between an in-person program and an online as to what we would allow. I see a question about, could I have a recommendation from a history teacher, for example, but could I apply for a different subject? Yes, you could, but if you apply in that other subject, see if you can get a teacher in that subject to do that first recommendation. and then the history teacher could be the second recommendation. If that specialty is outside, you don't have one of those specialists at your school, then you can get someone else, and then that history teacher could be that complement to that outside person. And Mrs. Cutshaw replied to that already, so I apologize for that. Any other questions? Verbally, online? I know you're tired, and I'm sorry. You guys have been excellent, and it's a real treat to chat with you. Again, this is recorded, so we'll be able to move forward, and you'll be able to refer back to this. Check out that video, that promo video. Check out your nomination packet. Write me at that email address, and I'll put it again here in the chat, ncgovschool@dpi.nc.gov, and that is a place where you can write us with any questions. Your parents can write, anyone can, and we'll reply. Mrs. Cutshaw, Ms. Bohr, thank you so much. Is there anything that you want to say to close up the meeting?
Thank you so much. I just, I realized I had not put my email in the chat box, and so I've just put that in the chat box. My email is chris, chris.cutshall, CUTSHALL, @bcsemail.org. You can find me on the county webpage if you want to search for Governor School or AIG, and I'm happy to answer any questions that I can for you. As always, once we close this window out, as you go about your time thinking about this and starting to write down your ideas for essays, you'll come up with further questions. So feel free to reach out to me, reach out to your counselors. Anything we can do to support you students and families, we want to do that, because we know we've got wonderful, wonderful students in our area that would be a great benefit to the Governor School program, and the Governor School program would be a great benefit to you. And so we want to do whatever we can to help you get there.
And you all know how to get a hold of me at Asheville Christian, but do let me know by the 15th if you are interested, or if any of your friends are interested, and we can go forward from there.
Okay, thanks. It was a real treat. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Great meeting you in person, at least for the first time. We've always emailed and everything, so it's great. And look forward to students. We just warmly invite you to apply, and we think it'll be worth your time, and it would be our honor to receive your nomination.
All right, thank you, folks. Anything we can do, you just let us know. Goodbye.